So I'd love to start by asking you how you would define a sustainable brand. What does that mean?
Such a complicated question. Part of what I was talking about today was sort of the inherent contradiction in a sustainable branding, because branding implies advertising, which I consider a not very sustainable way of trying to get attention for really good work that some companies are doing, changing their relationship to the earth, their relationship to consumption, their relationship to all sorts of things we think of as fundamental and maybe unchangeable. So maybe a good way of thinking about sustainable brands is companies that really think deeply about their relationship to everything, to the earth, to the people who buy their products or services, to the suppliers, to all the different stakeholders. And if they take them seriously, then change their business so that all these different forces benefit from their presence on earth. It's hard, it's kind of a big prescription, but I think that's the way to go. That's where to aim.
Thank you. So what are the biggest challenges that brands face in transitioning to a sustainable new economy that we've heard so many wonderful concepts about, but that transition can be tough?
It's funny because the challenges are myriad and crazy and everywhere. Like there's a landmine at every step, and yet taking a step is really easy and making progress is really easy. You just have to sort of figure it out in your head and shift how you see the world, how you think. Regulations are a mess. Expectations are a mess. Business models are a mess. That's just the momentum of old business models and the way we think things have to be done. It's very hard to undo old ideas, and yet it's very simple now to innovate and do new things. And you know, Unilever, Paul Pullman has really moved ahead and shifting the entire enterprise to be much more conscious of the earth than it ever was before. That's a wonderful thing. And they operate on a scale that is just gigantic, so they can have a lot of effect. We're so accustomed to the old models of being targeted and beaten with messages that even your average person on the street has a hard time absorbing and understanding that this relationship might have changed. So I think that's an interesting perspective as well, is how do you look at it through the other end of the telescope and say, what does the average person want to do? How are they looking at it? And if I can just stretch the answer for a moment, I'm shocked at how little companies are actually listening to people. I'm a big fan of design thinking, and I hear companies that have already been through design thinking. I was just talking with a couple financial institutions, and I finally blew up in the conversation. I said, hey, I'm a one-person business, and there are 5 things I need to do with my bank account that I don't get to do, and nobody seems to offer it. Number 1, I look at my statement, and I finally figure out what that one little mysterious transaction is about. Why can't I annotate my own record of my own account in the bank online? Why can't I add a little note? And that's just one of 5 different things that nobody seems to be listening to anybody to do, because I don't think I'm the first person who's ever had that problem, right? So there's an epidemic of not listening to people, which I think comes sort of part and parcel with consumer mass marketing and this feeling like there's just too many people out there for us to engage with.
Thank you. So in your talk, you spoke about how trust and mechanisms of trust building are really important for this transition as well. But they're difficult, right? You said it makes lawyers kind of uncomfortable a little bit. Openness, vulnerability, understanding social constructions. For companies that do that well, what's true about them? What's different about them?
The companies that do this really well have figured out that they have a center and a purpose, and that everything else will be okay. You look at Patagonia, you look at Yvon Chouinard, and you listen to him, and you're like, okay, dude knows what's up. You talk to, or you listen to Lee Anderson, who passed away. You listen to Ricardo Semler in Semco in Brazil. Amazing leader who doesn't advertise what he's doing. He doesn't want to sell it any place. He says, look, here's what we do. He leads a company in a completely different way that's all about trust at every turn. And they're starting to do schools. They're starting to do community development. It's really beautiful what they're doing there. They're coming from a place of understanding that if you behave this way, everything else kind of works out okay. And if you've been trained to behave the other way, and you believe that your skills aren't transmutable into this new world, and you believe that there might even be skeletons in the closet that your company has that if they were revealed might be kind of nasty, that's a very hard place to come from. It's really hard to get firm footing under yourself so that you can kind of be deeply rooted in knowing what you're up to and be credible.